We decided to go live today, not our usual schedule, because of the war that's unfolding now in Israel, which was launched a few hours ago by Hamas, the Islamist group that controls Gaza Strip.
Today at 6 a.m., the Hamas and other faction in Gaza launch a multi-dimensional attack on Israel by hitting Israel with a surprise attack of thousands of rockets all over the south of Israel and to the direction of Jerusalem and other cities. And they just start a killing spree.
Some of the world leaders have expressed the view that they're shocked by what is happening. And that is crazy. That is what Hamas is dedicated to. And that their whole reason for being is to do this kind of thing. That's what they are. And it should not shock anybody in the world that this is happening.
The only reason we are seeing this conflict right now is that there has been a complete failure to respond to what Hamas is about. And this is both on the side of the Israelis and on the side of their ally, the US and many other countries.
Anybody who is on the side of individuals who are actually interested in peace, in freedom, in living a prosperous life, whether they're born in Palestine or Palestinian or Israeli, would be pro the Israeli government and anti-Hamas. You will be anti any dictatorship, whether it's secular or religious. They're an authoritarian, dictatorial gang, and they terrorize their own people, and it's not surprising then they'll terrorize their neighbors. Anybody who thinks that we have, that like there's some good or something on both sides that we have to somehow broker a ceasefire and an agreement and so on is aiding and abetting killing people.
To answer your question, did Israel steal the land? The answer is no. It did not steal the land. And I think there's more to be said about the issue of, is there such a thing as Palestinian land? Is there such a thing as Jewish land? And I think the answer to that is also no. There's land that's owned by individuals. And then you can ask, what is their heritage? What is their background? What is their religion? What kind of beliefs do they have? But there is no land that's owned by a collective. And I think that's one of the pieces of context that this kind of map drops. We have reams of evidence of how the land was acquired through purchase, trade.
What is portrayed here is that the green area is Palestine, which is a huge lie. The wannabe conquering Arab armies did not want to create a Palestinian state. They wanted to grab whatever they could for themselves. They expelled every Jew and they destroyed the synagogues. And did they then declare this part of land to be Palestine? Of course not. This was Jordan. And the Gaza on the left towards the sea, this was part of Egypt.
That's part of what this map is trying to tell you. Look at how Israel's thwarted the Palestinian statehood. I think the truth is Israel made sacrificial steps towards enabling a Palestinian state. It blew up in its face. And the consequence is that there are now two Palestinian states.
When you're in war, it's not an issue you want to punish the other side. The issue is you want victory. You're bringing the other side's existence to an end. It's part of what it means to say that war is brutal. And yet it's even that good people are going to die. Soldiers are on your side, allies in enemy territory and so on. But the moral responsibility, again, for all of the deaths lie with the aggressor. If we're talking about an aggressor attacking a free or semi-free nation.
Lots of people do recognize that there is a right to self-defense. Lots of people do think on some level that their life is their own, that they shouldn't give it up for others, especially when it's literal life and death. The trouble is when you get into these situations where other people get caught in the crossfire, their old Judeo-Christian altruism sneaks back in. and they start to ask questions about this premise. They start to feel guilty. They start to say, well, gee, maybe I should sacrifice my life for these innocent people who might get caught in the crossfire. There just is no reason why your life is worth less than the aggressor who's trying to take it. But by the same token, there's no reason that it's worth less than some innocent person that he's put in the crossfire.
In times of crises, part of what happens is people revert to a moral perspective. And if this is their moral perspective, it paralyzes the good and it emboldens evil. And do you think of it in this context, part of what the sanction of the victim means, that we've heard this over and over and over again, is love your enemy. That is the explicit call for the victim to offer not blows to the person who's persecuting him, but his own love. That's what the sanction of the victim means. You're attacking me, and I'm going to treat you as like, oh yeah, you're a good person, and maybe I should even love you. And so that call is one of the most immoral calls that there has ever been in the history. But people take that seriously, like it's uncontroversial. Love your neighbor and even your enemy. And that is actually what has happened over and over in the Middle East, both from the US and from Israel.
I'm amused and disgusted when I hear people say that the US is overly supportive, because my view is the refrain is hold back, restrain yourself, do not fight to win, do not fight to defeat your enemies, do not fight to end this war conclusively. And we're seeing it now in Gaza since October 7th. The US has been relentless in insisting on that Israel hold back, delay, create so-called humanitarian corridors, provide relief, humanitarian relief. All of these are negating Israel's right to defend itself, which I don't think the United States would tolerate in any other context with respect to its own citizens and its responsibility to protect them.
I went back to read some of Hamas's founding documents. So they talk about Israel, but now it's the Zionist project as a racist colonial project and so on. And you find that in the student statements. They're almost spokesmen for Hamas, echoing their talking points. And part of to get at the motivation here, it is a nihilistic motivation. It is a love of destruction for destruction. And egalitarianism is an abstract formulation to justify hatred of the good for being the good. DEI is just now the concrete execution of the egalitarian vision. And the egalitarian vision, what it means is hatred of the good for being the good. It was directly an attack on any individual of intelligence or ability. And that's a vision that is about tearing down the people who earn something, who achieve something, who build. And so that when it happens to the Jews on campus, if they're seen as, yeah, but they're the representation of people who think, who actually exert ability, you don't count if that's what you do in the egalitarian vision. And indeed, you need to be torn down.
It's precisely because Iran is an embodiment and sees itself as trying to lead the Islamist movement. And Hamas, it's not a puppet of Iran, but it's ideologically allied with Iran. It's supported by Iran. They collaborate, they work together because they have similar goals.
The reason that the Iranian Revolution is the most significant event in the Middle East in the last 50 plus years is what it meant and the inspiration that revolution had for people across the Middle East. But in the Middle East, the perspective is, look how powerful we are. We can bring the mighty Satan, America, to its knees if we embrace Islam. And that's an inspiration throughout the region. Unless you put an end to the Iranian inspiration and a whole regime that is dedicated to this ideology and putting it into practice for over 50 years, you're never going to break the spirit of these people warring against America and against the West.